What if we're wrong? I mean, there's no take back. I've been through this before.
Yeah.
Well, which way did it go, George? Which way did it go?
Hello, welcome to Steelers Sanctuary and our Monday draft profile. Doing our first user request. Gregg Holt hit me up on X, asked me to do a profile on Ty Robinson. There's guys you want to hear about, please, hit me up on X, let me know. I'll try to respond as quickly as possible. Was going to do our third round draft pick today, but here's a guy who, we may end up seeing in black and gold in the middle rounds, depending on how the draft falls. So let's get into it. Robinson came to the combine. He was listed in his senior year, and he's a sixth-year senior as 6'6", 310 at Nebraska. Shows up at 6'5", not a huge deal when you're that big, but that weight and the interior defensive line, 310, 288, that's a pretty decent difference. That makes him kind of an undersized interior defensive lineman. As far as for the Steelers with a 3-4, you really want guys who are just a little bit bigger than that. Keanu Benton, he's about the size of Benton, who's kind of an undersized nose as well. Not quite as big as Cam, but not way under, but enough where you want to see him put maybe 10 or 15 pounds on that frame. And based on his athleticism, looks like he could do it. Ran a nice 40 under 5 seconds. Kind of what we thought Kenneth Grant might do when we did his profile a couple of days ago. He did outdo Kenneth Grant in the bench press with 28 reps, has a decent 10-yard split. And he's overall, in the defensive tackle ratings, he's ranked number 9. So pretty solid guy. Definitely not a round 1 or 2 guy. You start to think about him maybe towards the end of round 3, which I think it would be a little too early with the Steelers, especially if you go Grant in round 1. But round 4, he's going to present them with a decision. So if he was available, the Steelers have a lot of needs, but defensive line is a key need, and better than adding 1 would be adding 2. Maybe you want to do a veteran for the second one out of free agency, but this is an interesting kid. He's got versatility, plays with a heavy motor. He would definitely remind you, it's hard to say a guy's got a Cam Hayward motor because Cam has done it for so long in the league. But this guy plays with a motor, and it's similar. We'll say that it's a similar. I wouldn't compare him to Cam straight up, but that motor, yeah, I would compare the motor. When you watch his tape, he gets off the ball really fast. It's the one thing you watch when you jump out of him, or that jumps out at you when you watch, is he gets off the ball really, really fast. And if the guy he's going against, a center or a guard, or even a tackle, if that tackle's technique is not on point, he can become physically dominant. Now, if the technique is good, it's not quite as fantastic, but high motor, gets off the ball fast. A lot of times he can beat people to the punch and get decent penetration. And he uses a nice little shoulder turn, and he drives his legs to aid that penetration. So, on tape, he looks good. But when we start looking at the downside, 22 pounds below the listed playing weight, he plays with a high pad level. He's a big guy, so we kind of talked about this with Kenneth Grant, that big guys sometimes can have an inconsistent pad level. But unlike Grant, who physically is dominant consistently, even with the inconsistent pad level, everything's got to kind of go right for Robinson to flash that physical dominance, or everything's got to go wrong for the player who's trying to block him. Doesn't mean he can't get more consistent at it, but it is one thing when he plays against better linemen, he does, I wouldn't say struggle, but he's not as impactful on tape. He does, when he does get double teamed, though, I will say this, he gets washed out a lot. He doesn't hold his ground very well, and in a 3-4, a defensive tackle is going to get double teamed. Even if you're the defensive end, you're really just a glorified defensive tackle. So that's something he's really got to work on to project up higher. But that's why he's going to be available in the middle rounds versus, round 1 or 2. I think you're reaching if you take him too early in round 3. late round 3, depending on what the team needs are, I could maybe see it. I wouldn't want the Steelers to jump in on him until after until round 4 or later. I think he's a he would be a nice day 3 ad. Now, that being said, when you have really good athletes, he's not the necessarily freak athlete that Grant is, but he is a good athlete. When guys are good athletes, sometimes they rely too much on their athletic gifts, and that's something that he does. His technique for pass rushing, not the greatest. He could definitely benefit from some professional coaching. And if you can put a tool box with his athleticism, this is something that he could really turn into something and has a decent upside. So, Steelers Sanctuary verdict on Ty Robinson. The combine did showcase he has above average athleticism, but it also exposed he might be a little more undersized than everybody thinks. So I think he would have a difficult time playing the nose unless he puts on 10 or 15 pounds and maintains his explosiveness. I think he's a solid mid-round prospect. I think the Steelers need to go defensive line a little earlier than him. But if he's sitting there in round 4 and you got a wide receiver and a running back and a defensive lineman, it's a guy you might want to consider with the 4th round pick. And if he somehow slid to the 5th round, they should be all over him. But I don't think he will. I don't think he gets out of the 4th round. He's a good run defender. And with the double team, issue, not great. There's some work to be done there. I don't think he's an instant impact person, but he could come in, be a rotational piece for a year or 2 and grow into the position, depending on the coaching he gets. That's the Steelers. We'll see. But that being said, if somebody can teach this kid some technique to go with the athleticism, this could be a real steal in the middle rounds. If the Steelers double down in the middle rounds, this guy has a lot of upside. I don't know if they would do that. I think they would wait till a little later in the draft because there's some guys at the end who are pretty good as well. But Steelers could definitely do worse if he's the second defensive lineman they select. So that's all I got. Let me know what you think. Podcast tonight at 7. Leanne, Dave, Zach, and David, we're all going to be there talking about the combine, talking about some of the stuff going on with potential free agents. Should be a fun time. Hit me up on X. Let me know if there's someone else you want me to profile. And we'll be back doing this again tomorrow. Have a great day.
Why am I so sad? Am I doing the wrong thing?
It's just that sometimes goodbyes are a bitch.
T-shirt, idea, goodbye stink.
I'll see you tomorrow at lunch.
I am looking forward to lunch.